Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NTD Tonight. I'm David Zhang. Here's a preview of some of today's top stories. President Biden visited Israel to offer words of support to Israeli people. We'll bring you a quick recap. The second House vote failed to elect a speaker. Representative Jim Jordan lost the support compared to Tuesday's ballot. A Las Vegas cop caught in a casino heist. The officer now faces a prison sentence. What we know on the large group of pro-Palestine demonstrators that took over Capitol Hill earlier today. Police say they made 30 arrests and 3 people have been charged with assaulting a police officer. Protesters chanted, "Let Gaza live," in the Cannon House office building. They called on Congress to take action to help end the fighting. After a warning from Capitol Police, protesters were eventually handcuffed and escorted out. Demonstrations are not allowed inside congressional buildings. Access to office buildings around the Capitol area were restricted until 7 p.m. Eastern. President Joe Biden visited Israel today. He gave remarks in Tel Aviv after meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister. Here's a recap.
I come to Israel with a single message. You're not alone. You are not alone. As long as the United States stands, and we will stand forever, we'll not let you ever be alone. Most importantly, I know the recent terrorist assault on the people of this nation has left a deep, deep wound. More than 1,300 innocent Israelis killed, including at least 31 American citizens by the terrorist group Hamas. Hundreds of young people at a music festival. The festival was for peace, gunned down as they ran for their lives. Scores of innocents, from infants to elderly grandparents, Israelis and Americans, taken hostage. Children slaughtered, babies slaughtered, entire families massacred. Rape, beheadings, bodies burned alive. Hamas committed atrocities that recall the worst ravages of ISIS, unleashing pure, unadulterated evil upon the world. The vast majority of Palestinians are not Hamas. Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people. Hamas uses innocent families in Gaza as human shields, putting their command centers, their weapons, their communications tunnels in residential areas. Palestinian people are suffering greatly as well. We mourn the loss of innocent Palestinian lives like the entire world. Today I asked the Israeli cabinet, who I met with for some time this morning, to agree to the delivery of life-saving humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza, based on the understanding that there will be inspections and that the aid should go to civilians, not to Hamas. Israel agreed the humanitarian assistance can begin to move from Egypt to Gaza. Let me be clear, if Hamas diverts or steals the assistance, they will have demonstrated once again that they have no concern for the welfare of the Palestinian people.
Now to Congress. The House voted for Speaker again today after yesterday's vote failed. Ohio Representative Jim Jordan still hasn't garnered enough Republican support. He actually lost votes today compared to yesterday.
We just keep talking. I'm meeting with some members, one member now and a few members later.
Do you think that you're going to pick up support on the second ballot this morning?
I hope so. I think so. We've already had Mr. Bill LaRocca is coming back. We've already had one member who told us that he's going from, I forget who he voted for the first round, he's going to vote for us on the second round.
This isn't about being anti-Jim. I think he's done a great job as chairman. He's a great voice, one of many great voices. But yeah, it will be a no vote, the second round. And we need a speaker that can represent the entire conference, I believe.
Representative Don Bacon praised Jordan for his work on the House Judiciary Committee, but said he isn't the right man for the job. 22 Republicans voted against Jordan, who received a total of 199 votes. 4 more Republicans voted against him compared to Tuesday's first ballot. But he picked up 2 Republican votes from Representatives Doug LaMalfa of California and Victoria Spartz of Indiana. If Jordan can't succeed, there is buzz about giving the temporary speaker more power. That's so the House can take action on issues like Israel. A popular drugstore chain reducing several of its U.S. locations due to financial issues. NTD's Christina Corona has more on the story.
Rite, which has more than 2,000 retail locations in the U.S., filed for bankruptcy Sunday with plans to close around 400 to 500 of its stores. Rite struggled due to intense competition, a $3.3 billion debt, and costly legal battles linked to the opioid crisis. This has raised concerns about healthcare access in many communities, especially for older adults who may struggle to obtain their necessary medications. According to Joshua Sussberg, an attorney for Rite, in order to ensure continued prescription services for customers, Rite has settled a dispute with drug supplier McKesson Corp. Under this settlement, McKesson will supply drugs through Rite's bankruptcy proceedings, while Rite will expedite payments for new drug shipments and prioritize them over other creditors. Christina Corona, NTD News, California.
In Georgia, 4 inmates escaped from a detention center early Monday morning. They were being held on charges ranging from murder to drug trafficking. I spoke with NTD's Jason Blair to get the latest on the situation. So Jason, could you please tell us a little bit more about this manhunt?
Yeah, David. So a manhunt is underway in Georgia in Bibb County, which is a county about 85 miles south of Atlanta. What happened is early Monday morning, 4 inmates were able to escape through a window in a day room and then through a hole in a fence out to a Dodge Charger, which was waiting for them, and then they were able to get away in the vehicle. The sheriff held a press conference yesterday about the incident. He said that he thinks the driver of the Dodge Charger was involved in creating the hole, or at least putting some items through the fence. Looking at some surveillance video, they were able to verify this. And then they think that the individuals were able to use some of the items that were put through the fence to escape. They still haven't 100% confirmed this. They are still investigating things, but they are looking for help and want to get these individuals detained again.
Did the sheriff indicate how this was able to happen?
He didn't point specifically to anything. He did highlight that their first priority right now is to catch the individuals and put them back, into custody. But he did mention that the jail is worn down. It needs to be, updated and renovated. The room, the area where the detainees were able to escape from, actually, he said, is the most rundown part of the jail that needs to be, updated and fixed. He also said something about staffing issues the facility has been having. They've been having trouble keeping enough staff. And for example, on the night of the escape, only 10 people were actually on duty at the facility, which houses over 800 inmates.
Any idea where the fugitives might be now?
The sheriff said that they don't have any solid leads right now to find these individuals. He said there was no indication that they knew each other before they got into jail, so they could be, together still. They could be separate, gone their own ways. They're not quite sure at this time. As I mentioned, they are working with several different agencies to try to track them down. He also said that they're looking for tips from the public. They are offering a $1,000 reward for any information that leads to their arrest, and people can call Crime Stoppers at 1-887-68-CRIME.
All right, Jason Blair, we appreciate your reporting.
Thank you.
In Las Vegas, Lady Luck dealt a 12-year sentence to one police officer. NTD's Christina Corona has more on the story.
A Las Vegas police officer received a 12-year federal prison sentence Tuesday for his involvement in 3 casino heists where he stole nearly $165,000. One incident occurred in which he was found guilty of brandishing a department-issued weapon. Caleb Rogers, 35, who has been in unpaid suspension and isolation for nearly 20 months since his arrest, expressed remorse before the sentencing. Rogers had brandished the weapon during his February February 2022 arrest following the final heist and a brief altercation with casino security personnel near the Las Vegas Strip. U.S. District Judge Andrew Gordon recognized Rogers' gambling addiction and financial difficulties and imposed a sentence less than the potential maximum of 22 years. The judge also mandated an additional 3 years of supervised release after prison and ordered Rogers to pay $85,310 in restitution to the casinos. At the time of the robberies, Rogers served as a patrol officer and he was found guilty of all 3 heists by a jury in July. Christina Corona, NTD News, Nevada.
We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. Spectacular but expensive. The Grand Prix is coming soon and the construction is underway in Las Vegas. Could actor Alec Baldwin still face charges over a fatal on-set shooting? New evidence prompts New Mexico officials to re-examine the case. Millennials leaving California, but which state is the top relocation choice? Those stories and more coming up on NTD Tonight. Welcome back to NTD Tonight. I'm your host, David Zhang. The Grand Prix coming to Las Vegas in November. Construction has been underway since earlier this year.
The inaugural Las Vegas Grand Prix in November will bring sensory overload to the already flashy city. People can expect more bright lights, roaring race cars, and some of the wealthiest F1 fans in the world. But the daily disruptions have created a vibe that the event might also be an expensive logistical headache. The construction brought major changes on the Strip as sidewalks and streets close. The race is being promoted by F1, which acknowledged last year that Las Vegas will be the most expensive spectator event on its 23-race calendar. The Wynn Grid Club offers a $50,000 package that includes, among other things, race tickets, a helicopter tour, and transportation to the circuit. There's also the opportunity to purchase a lap on the track and access to 5-star accommodations at Wynn Las Vegas. All the top hotels, charging pre-pandemic rates, have created F1 experiences that come with high prices. The 17-turn course will start in a parking lot and pass multiple Las Vegas attractions. The event runs November 16 to 18, 2 weeks after the NASCAR season finale.
Actor Alec Baldwin might still face charges over a tragic on-set shooting 2 years ago. New evidence prompts New Mexico officials to reconsider their legal case. NTD's Jason Blair reports.
Actor Alec Baldwin faces renewed legal scrutiny. 2 years after a fatal on-set mishap, New Mexico officials announced they will convene a grand jury in mid-November. They say additional facts have been discovered suggesting Baldwin might still be responsible for cinematographer Helena Hutchins' death. The mishap unfolded on set during a rehearsal for the film Rust, where Baldwin's revolver that wasn't supposed to have live ammunition discharged, fatally wounding Hutchins. This renewed probe comes after an independent forensic test found that Baldwin must have pulled the trigger in order for the gun to fire. The finding aligns with a previous FBI test on the gun. 6 months ago, charges against the Emmy-winning actor had been dropped, citing potential firearm tampering that could allow discharge without using the trigger. Baldwin denies responsibility, asserting he didn't pull the trigger. The actor's legal team said in a statement, quote, "It is unfortunate that a terrible tragedy has been turned into this misguided prosecution, and they will respond to the charges in court." Jason Blair, NTD News.
A San Francisco Bay Area attorney indicted in a multi-million-dollar Ponzi scheme. It involves a solar company owned by a couple. NTD's Stephanie Sikal reports.
A Lafayette attorney, Ari Lauer, is facing 23 federal fraud charges for his involvement in what's described as the largest criminal fraud scheme in the Eastern District of California. The 59-year-old served as an outside counsel for DC Solar, a company linked to a nearly $1 billion Ponzi scheme. The scheme claimed to provide emergency power using mobile solar generators and attract investors with federal tax credits. But in reality, investors bought units they never received. Prosecutors said the company used false financial statements and lease contracts to conceal the fraud. The couple who owned DC Solar pleaded guilty to federal charges in 2020. The husband was sentenced to 30 years in prison in order to pay more than $790 million in restitution. His wife was sentenced to 11 years in prison. Lauer is charged with conspiracy to commit wire and bank fraud. Stephanie Sikal, NTD News, Los Angeles.
With in-vehicle cameras becoming more common, so are concerns. Consumer privacy advocates are praising a new California state law that regulates how in-car recordings are used.
California Governor Gavin Newsom has signed State Senate Bill 296, known as In-Vehicle Camera Privacy Law. Under the new law, dealers must inform customers of cameras inside their vehicles. It prohibits sharing pictures and videos with third parties without the customer's consent. The only exception is for diagnostics, repairs, and vehicle improvement. And an attorney can now fine dealers or manufacturers up to $2,500 per incident for violations. According to a report by Mozilla Foundation, popular car brands can collect deeply personal data from sensors, microphones, cameras, and phones or devices drivers use to connect to their cars. The information can be sold to third parties or used by car brands to learn more about drivers' behaviors. Robert Harwell, the executive director of Consumer Federation of California, told the Epoch Times that they appreciate the governor's signature, especially after his veto last year on a similar bill. The new law will take effect on January 1st.
Religious freedom one step closer for some Americans. Religious clothing, headwear, and beards are now more acceptable for inmates under a new California law. NTD's David Lamb reports.
A new California law, Senate Bill 309, establishes new religious protections for incarcerated Californians. The bill author, Democratic State Senator Dave Cortese, celebrated the bill's signing with the Council on American Islamic Relations and others.
Whether you're a Muslim person wearing a hijab, a Jewish individual donning a kaftan, or a Sikh person wearing a turban, your civil liberties and First Amendment rights will remain intact.
According to Cortese's office, there are policies allowing specific religious attire in state-operated facilities, but each local detention facility may have their own protocols. SB 309 aims to set an official policy that applies to both state and local detention facilities. People with religious affiliations can keep their religious attire until able to purchase or access similar garments provided by the facility. Facilities must also allow individuals to maintain their hair or beards for religious reasons.
I personally saw guys that were straight killers, gangsters, come into religion and completely transform their lives and become model men.
The senator's office states that research shows that when inmates can practice their spiritual tradition while in detention, they're less likely to be violent or engage in other negative behaviors and reduce recidivism. In Santa Clara, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
California millennials flock to Nevada. A study reveals why this is a top relocation choice. NTD's Stephanie Sikal has the story.
A recent Storage Cafe study shows that many California millennials are moving to Nevada, making it the top choice for relocation among this demographic. The study combines data from the U.S. Census Bureau and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, highlighting Nevada's position as the sixth highest state of net migration. In 2021, 7.9 million Americans moved to different states, with 60,000 Californians opting for Nevada. Conversely, states like California, Alaska, New York, and Illinois are witnessing significant negative net migration. The COVID-19 pandemic appears to be a driving factor in these migration trends, with people favoring less densely populated areas. Whether this is a short-term or long-term shift remains uncertain and requires more time for a conclusive answer. Stephanie Sikal, NTD News, California.
A house that can rotate 360 degrees. That's what a man in Vietnam started building over 10 years ago. This year, he is finally wrapping up the last bits of construction and decoration.
A mechanic in Vietnam has built a unique house that rotates a full 360 degrees. This is all thanks to an underground mechanism he devised. 57-year-old Van Long Nguyen built his home in Bac Giang province on top of an underground water tank. This allows the house to spin using the same amount of energy needed to power an electric fan. The house can also move at different speeds. Mr. Nguyen said, "I came up with the idea to build this house in 2009 and started construction in 2012 and completed it in 2016. It won't be until 2023 to finish decorating the house." He says this project was a passion that ended up bankrupting him, but he still poured his energy and knowledge to experiment a number of times before starting construction. The whole house floats on an underground cavity, some 40 feet deep, with propellers and rotating shafts. The polygonal structure features multiple levels with balconies. The National Office of Intelligence Property of Vietnam has also recognized Mr. Nguyen's tireless efforts and granted an exclusive patent on the house that rotates on a water tank.
That's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on NTD Tonight every weekday at 9 p.m. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.